How do you reflect on Tuesday night?
Yeah, listen, clearly disappointed with the result and obviously the manner of getting the player sent off. Um, I thought we started the game really well. The authority in the game was really good. Played with confidence. Disappointed with the first goal that we conceded, but still kept working. And like I said, right up until the sending off, I felt good in the game. The sending off shouldn't have been a sending off, and then of course when you're the underdog as such against a top team. Playing with 10 men away from home, then I just felt in the second half that everything they hit went in. It was. I never felt. Of course, they're going to have the ball and they're going to dominate the ball, but I never felt it was as if it was a attack after attack after attack. I just felt that the everything they hit from every angle outside the box, it went in. So, but our players gave everything. I think it. Only in that point in this league, in this Champions League so far, have we ever not felt so good in the game. Every other game we've played with authority and quality, and I just think the sending off really changed the game.
How do you feel you can get closer to teams like Atletico?
Well, it's always a challenge, but that level is about quality. That's the reality. We played there before and we were very close. We're playing at home, amazing supporters, really pushing us, fantastic performance, So, but the Champions League level is the very highest level in European football, and it is about the quality, and especially at the top end of your field. So, but for us, it's a continuation of fighting, running, working, and developing players to have the belief at that level. Because you think a lot of our players, look at Matt O'Reilly, just over 2 years ago, he's playing in League One, and he's now playing the Champions League. And we got other young guys like Liam Scales and players that really sample in it and have really thrived in it this year. But what you can't do is give them experience, and that comes from being in the competition, and it comes from obviously adverse moments as well, because that adversity helps you learn. And it was certainly that. We were all disappointed the other night. But I think my overall feeling after reflecting and debriefing in the game, I think for us to felt that we can go there and get a result against a team that will go deep in the competition, I think it tells you everything about how well the team have done up until that point. It was just unfortunate that we get the sending off and it culminates in a heavy loss.
Despite the kind of the gap in quality, do you still feel that you can take Celtic where you want to when it comes to this high-end level of competition?
We always have to dream that we can do that. That's what being a coach, manager, player, supporter is. If I thought there was never any hope, there's no point in doing it. My dream always is for Celtic to be at the very highest level of European football, and for the players to go and challenge themselves against that, and as a manager and a coach to challenge against that. Now, of course, from a results perspective, it's very, very, very difficult, but it won't stop us. We have to keep fighting, and we have to keep looking to develop the squad to challenge the level.
In some circumstances, there can maybe be a hangover at some clubs after a result like that, but is it maybe easier to put to bed just given the fact there was an early red card and the quality of opposition you were up against?
Yeah, but I also think that's why we coach, and it's why we manage. Clearly I always say after any loss, you have a grieving period for 24 hours, but then you move on. Like in life, you can't dwell too much, and that's why we get paid as managers and coaches. We get paid to train the players, to coach the players, to speak around confidence, because there's no doubt if two players are the same and one has confidence and one doesn't, the player with confidence is much better, and that's my job, to ensure that my speeches and the sessions we have is there to improve the confidence level of players, and for me, I've seen that after the disappointment they've come back in a couple of days been very good. So we move on to the next game.
Yeah, does it always feel like there is a sort of reset between the European fixtures and domestic stuff, just given how dominant you've been in most of your domestic fixtures this season?
Well, there's no difference in terms of the analysis. We still prepare like every game is a big game. Doesn't matter who we play. Every game is a big game for us. But of course, the whole nature around Champions League makes the spectacle maybe much bigger or spectacular. But every game is a big game when you're a Celtic player, and manager. So we get ready and prepare well for Aberdeen.
I appreciate that the majority of the focus will be on yourselves, but with Aberdeen playing, a tough away game last night with less preparation, does that change your preparation going into the game at all?
It doesn't change ours. It worked the other way against us, playing Saturday, Tuesday. It gives you more recovery period, which is an important factor leading into games. There's no doubt. And I think if you are away from home in a European game, ideally you would want to have a home game. But it doesn't change anything around our preparation. So we get laser focused into what it is we need to do.
How's the squad looking from the other night?
Yeah, all good. Apart from Daizan Maeda, will probably be up to 6 weeks out with the injury from the challenge. So he's sort of strained his medial knee ligament, which comes from when you just knock a player on the foot. If he was stronger in the challenge, he probably wouldn't have had the injury. So just a clash of feet, it's just opened up his knee ligament. So it's a big shame for us because he's been brilliant for me since I came here.
Is that maybe even more evidence for you just that it shouldn't have been a red card, just given the fact that he's taken a real hit in there and he's now got a sort of long-standing injury because of the clash? Yeah.
Well, listen, you only have to assess the incident. I think everyone could see, if you know football at all, that there was no intention. It was just he's overstretching, and both players have clashed feet. So and the irony is that as soon as the red card went up, their player miraculously got up off the floor. So but Dysan's out for 6 weeks or so. So it's a disappointment for us.
How big a loss is that as well? Just with a lot of games in quick succession, he provides a real energy for the team as well.
He does. Well, as I said, it's a big loss because his attitude and mentality going into every game is superb. He initiates the pressure for us at the top end. But I always say it's an opportunity for someone else to come in and take that opportunity to play.
I think he'd have been absolutely gutted in the dressing room after the game as well, but to cap it off, the injury as well, is a kind of real blow for him.
Yeah, it's a real shame because he's been like a machine since he's come here to Celtic. Watching him before I arrived, and then coming in here and seeing what he does every day, and in the games he's incredible, really. So, and he hasn't had too many knocks since he's been here that have kept him out for any length of time. But clearly this one will have him out for a wee bit.
I know you spoke about VAR after the game. We were talking to Stephen Robinson this morning, who's saying we've got to question whether it's improving. Is it making football better? And if not, then we'll have a discussion about it. Do you think it's getting to that stage where we'll look at the very existence of VAR, question that, or do we just stick with it, keep trying to improve it?
Yeah, I think it's one. When it first came out, I've always been one to make the greater good of the game. If something helps that, makes it better as a spectacle, and for supporters, then brilliant. I felt for Celtic supporters the other day. You think you've paid hundreds of pounds to travel over to Madrid. You're stuck up in the sky watching the game, and you've had a good day maybe in Madrid, and you go to the game, and after 20 odd minutes, one of your players sent off. Just spoils the game. It just absolutely spoils the game. And I think we're now starting to see it that little bit more. I was always cautious in it all to see how the technology works, and okay, the technology is fine, but the implementation of that. But the more I see it and the more it goes on, I watch the game after, I see Marcus Rashford getting sent off, which was never a sending off. When he goes to plant his foot, the young guy's foot wasn't there initially, and then it's there, and he gets sent off, and that changes the course of the game. So we're starting to see it a lot more often now, and I think that the waiting about, the hanging about. I said after the game the other night, it feels we're getting more like a computer game now. Everything being assessed on a screen, and that's not football. It's not football, and I think if it continues that way, then of course it would have to be looked at because from a player's perspective, supporter's perspective, and an actual general football perspective, that's not the game we know and the game we love.
I know the Scottish Football Association had said before the start of the season that after, I think, 11 games they were going to have a meeting with clubs. I'd imagine maybe that will happen soon in the international break perhaps. Is that perhaps a chance for managers to help refocus it? I mean, we were told it was clear and obvious errors. It seems to have gone beyond that as well. Is that a chance maybe to refocus it?
Well, I just think that everyone will look at it. But I think in any line of work, if there's something that's been put in place, then you have to review and reflect on whether it's working or not. I think that's what's key. You know, I've spoke to people who've down in England who've been in the Championship as well, where there's no VAR, and they tend to quite enjoy it. You know, they understand there's going to be maybe some mistakes in it, but the fluency of the game, the fluidity of it all feels a little bit removed from the constant looking at screens and just by our conversation. It's not something that should be talked about as much as it is.
Brent, based on what you're saying, is there more bad than good coming out of the VAR just now?
No, listen, I think there's probably a high percentage of it which is really good. I don't think it's that the case. I think there's a lot of it has certainly helped the game. But I think now it's getting beyond the referee. There's no doubt it's been refereed a lot more outside of the field than it is in the field. Like if you look at the referee the other night, he's close to the action, he's given a yellow card. Okay, but somehow he gets told to look at the screen. And he comes to the screen and what's presented in front of him is Daisan's foot up. But that's not a true reflection of the challenge at all. So I think there's probably a lot of it is good, but the bad in it is very bad, and that's something that would have to be looked at, whether it's worth it or not.
You said the other night you weren't enjoying it now. Do you think that's a growing feeling amongst guys, managers?
Well, it's just I think I'm quite a patient guy in life and sport, and so I know when it's starting to grate on me that it's gone quite a way. You know, other managers, in fairness to them, they've been at this here a few years ago. You know, they've seen these signs maybe coming a lot earlier than me. I tend to want to give things time and see how it pans out, because everything always deserves a chance. But if it's spoiling the game, that's when we would have to look at it for sure.
But you're not quite there yet, but you're seeing spoiling the game. It's not doing the game justice just now.
No, listen, if you asked me right now, I would get rid of it.
Would you?
Absolutely. But if there's money being invested in it for the greater good of the game that is supposedly to make it better, then you have to give that every chance. But if you're asking me now, I'd go back to just pure football. And we know that where there's humans involved, you will have mistakes. We'll all make mistakes. But I'd rather accept that than what we see at the moment.
You can't see it getting disbanded with now, can you, given that there's been so much investment in it?
Don't know.
Brendan, how you doing here for a Celtic
Very
State of
good.
Mind? How you doing?
Top goalkeeper here.
After your advice at the game, mate. I don't want to harp back too much to the Atletico game, but as fans there can always be an overreaction to these games, especially with the scoreline. But when you look back to the home game against Atletico, for me and a lot of people saying online, it's not just the best we've seen Celtic play in Europe for a couple of years, it's the best I've seen us play in Europe ever. And then to go and get that 6-0 defeat, the overreaction's huge. How do you pick up the pieces as a manager for your players? Because they're the ones that have also not only taken the defeat, but then having to listen to any criticism, sometimes justified, sometimes not. How do you guard them from it? And if you can't guard them from it, is it a case of tough love, come on, let's go on the pitch and just keep going, or is it a time to reflect, or a bit of both?
Yeah, it's a wee bit of both. Listen, I think in the modern game now that there's always going to be critics, even when you win. So, but that's what I say. That's what training is for. You come off after a game like that and you lose, and obviously you lose heavily. You have to be honest and accept that. And even though we don't like it, that's how the game panned out for us. But like I say, that's why we train. That's why we come back into work again. Because if you don't go again, someone else wins. So you have to show the strength, whether you're a player or a manager. And that's why I always say put 24 hours on it and grieve in that moment. And it's not nice, and it's hard to come out of your house. You don't want to be seen. But you have to go again. And that's what we do. And that's why an environment isn't something that you buy. It's something that you create. And we have an environment which is based around honest appraisal of performance. And then you draw a line under it and you move on. And that's what we do here. We there's a culture here which is an honest culture to assess the game and where we can be better in it and where we can be improved, and then we move on. From a manager's perspective, it's easy for me because I don't hear the reaction. Numbers of years ago, in order to regulate the pressure of it, of being a manager and a coach, I decided that while still having empathy with people and understanding feelings of people, I don't really care less what people say. So I really focus on the game. I focus on the team and the players, and in order to give us a win in our next game, which then everyone will be happy again.
Fantastic. Now, to get to more positive stuff, recently the Celtic fans have been singing your name again, Brendan. How does that make you feel? Because I know that it's huge for a lot of us. We all wanted you back, and I felt quite tough. It was a tough thing to watch in case you weren't going to get the backing from the fans. I would have felt quite awkward being at the matches, but to hear them sing, it was beautiful. How does that make you feel to hear that again?
It's great. Listen, I understand it was going to be different to when I first came in, and because of the hurt and everything that was here. But I always felt that time would hopefully resolve that. Hopefully show my commitment to being here, but I understood it. I totally understood it. And there's people will never get over it. What happened when I was here the first time, and that's also the reality of it. But no, it's great because I just think that if you're a club and you're together as one, then of course that unity really allows you to go forward. And I know as being a Celtic manager, having that support and what it gives the team, that strength that you gain from that is very, very important. So, but now listen, I'm blessed here to work at a club where the support make a genuine difference to a club and its performance. And as I said, more times than not this season, the team have performed well, and it's great for the team to have the back. And of course, if it comes for the manager as well, great. But as long as the players get it, that's for me what's most important.